Hi there, I'm Courtney Morris. Welcome to my kitchen. We are here testing old recipes in my cookbooks that I have amassed from the 1940s on backwards. And today we are going to talk about Woolton Pie. We're doing some World War II recipes at the moment so I can get some wear out of this because I've never touched it until last week. So Woolton Pie doesn't sound great. So back in World War II, the Minister of Food was named Lord Woolton, and he was in charge of making sure that Britain ate healthy because they were so rationed. All the normal food and the quantities of food that Brits would normally eat were sent off to the soldiers. So the people back at home had to rely on their gardens and whatever rations the British government had available at the time for them and be able to try to do something nutritious with them. So in order to get people to start realizing that vegetables were now going to be more of an entree rather than a side dish or a complete afterthought, Lord Woolton enlisted the help of Francis Latry. He was the head chef at the famous Savoy Hotel, and Francis was put in charge of creating a hearty, healthy dish that any housewife could make with ingredients found everywhere. So that's potatoes and carrots and cauliflower, your root vegetables, you name it, and it goes in this pot with a pastry on top, and they called it Woolton Pie for Lord Woolton. I think I said that weird, but whatever. So it caught on eventually, and once people realized that that was the food that they had and it wasn't going to go back to normal anytime soon, it started becoming more and more of a thing. After the war, it was pretty much forgotten. Its memory lies in the propaganda that we still can see and research and in the cookbooks, and everybody from what I've read will remember it who lived back then, but I can guarantee you it's probably not the first thing that anybody puts on their kitchen table for dinner anymore. All right, so with that being said, I want to try it. Let's go to the cutting board and see what we can do with this.
So for this recipe, you need 1 pound of sweet or rutabaga, 1 pound of carrots, 1 pound of potatoes, and 1 pound of cauliflower. We'll also need another potato and some flour for the crust, but we'll get there. So the recipe calls for dicing and cooking the vegetables. Now in this case, I took that to mean dicing everything up and then boiling them until tender. I think I may have actually overboiled them because they were a little on the softer side, but I think it's going to be okay. Anyways, there's a lot of vegetables here, and put all together, it didn't smell too badly. I've never cooked with a rutabaga before, so I am curious to see how that turns out. I know they are a friend of turnip, and I do like turnips raw with salt, but I tend to prefer all my vegetables raw with some sort of dip or with salt or dill or something like that, so I'm a little apprehensive about the cooked vegetables that I just don't know. Then the next step is to put the vegetables into a stew pot and boil the heck out of them. So fill it up with a lot of water so they have room to circulate, and then turn on your stove to high to get a good rolling boil. Okay, so this has been boiling for about 15 minutes now, and they almost look done. I can't do this one-handed, so we're going to put this on the counter. Got my skewer here, and you want these fork tender. Ooh, almost. The recipe then says to hold out 12 ounces of your vegetable stock and put it into a saucepan with 2 ounces of oatmeal and to cook until thickened. I cooked it until slightly thickened, not like actual breakfast oats. The next step is to make your potato pastry, and for this I took a 4-ounce cooked potato and mashed the crap out of it, and then added a half a cup of self-rising flour. The recipe also then called for 2 ounces of some sort of cooking fat. I used lard because that's what I had. I squished it around with a fork to make it crumbly, just like I was making a normal pie crust. And then I added enough water for consistency, but be careful how much water you add because potatoes hold a lot of moisture and this is an extremely soft and delicate dough. It's very hard to work with. So then I took 4 green onions and chopped those up per the instructions, and I want to apologize that my video quality decided to go down the tube because my camera decided to go down the tube, and for some reason my phone has started to not like the instructions I give it when I put it on the video setting. So we'll get that figured out. So go ahead and find a dish and pour all your cooked vegetables into it, and then pour on your oatmeal mixture. I'm not sure what this does. It's an age-old thing to use oats in cooking dishes like this, but I don't know exactly why for this one. And then add your green onions. Now it's time to roll out your top dough. Please don't do what I did and just put the pastry on the cutting board directly. You need a lot of flour, and I was having such a hard time getting it to not stick to my cutting board and my rolling pin. It was a pain in the butt. It tastes really good, but it's not my favorite kind of pastry by any means. So I ended up using quite a bit more flour on the cutting board to make it look somewhat like a pie crust and usable. But because I was having such a problem, it looks really bad. So I just decided to tuck the ends into the dish and kind of patch up holes as I could. I have seen pictures of this pie where the crust is absolutely gorgeous, but you know, for first time, I'm calling this good. I personally do not see why you would waste such precious cheddar cheese on something like this, because there's not enough cheese for it to do anything, but that's what the recipe said and I did it. And then you want to cook it in a 400-degree oven until it comes out browned on top.
Okay, so here we are. This is a slice of my Woolton Pie. It came out as just a jumble of vegetables with some crust, and honestly, it smells better than I thought it would. It really is just hearty vegetables with a potato crust, and I'm still a little apprehensive because one thing I noticed about this was there was no salt, no pepper. I am happy though that it did say to serve with brown gravy, which makes me a little excited. So let's take a test of just how it is without the gravy. And it's cooked vegetables. Let's try cauliflower. If I were a kid, I would complain. As an adult, it's not so bad. I'm gonna try it with this gravy. Now, I found a brown gravy packet at the store because I'm not sure what exactly brown gravy entitles, aside from maybe if you had meat drippings. But I'm hoping that the saltiness in the brown gravy is going to make up for the lack of seasoning in this. Okay, let's try it again. Oh, well, get something in here. Okay. That pulls it together. That really, let me try again. That's what it's missing, salt. It basically is missing salt and some moisture. That gravy pulls it together and actually makes it more of like a pot pie than vegetables in a dish, regardless of how mushy it is. Now, one thing that I think if I ever make this again, the recipe just says to dice and cook your vegetables and then put it in the pan. And I think I overcooked them a little bit. They are a little on the mushy side for me, but you know what? I'm, again, not mad at this. If I had my gravy, I think I would be okay. This is hearty, it's healthy, and you know, you can't really go wrong if you're on a budget and looking for something nutritious. Although I do understand why it fell out of popularity after the war. I mean, it's not great, but it's not the worst. It's not terrible. I would eat it as a side dish again if someone served it to me. And, you know, I could honestly see it, you had a frugal housewife or a seasoned housewife, I should say, who had their own garden and maybe had an herb garden. I could see them making adjustments to it, like putting some oregano in there or some thyme just to spice it up a bit. Maybe this was just a base recipe, and I mean, one would hope that British housewives were a little more creative. But really, as again, like I said in my last video, as a budget meal that's filling and nutritious, the Minister of Food, Lord Woolton, did a good job. He definitely ticked off those boxes. It's not bad. It's really not bad. It's just not something I would say, ooh, I feel like a Woolton pie tonight, unless it was really doctored up. I can also see why it fell out of favor too, because you take a meat and potatoes kind of culture that has done that for centuries, and then have almost forced vegetarianism going on. I could see why there was a lot of people resisting this dish. We have modern day recipes that are just like this, that aren't called Woolton pie. It's more like root vegetable bake or roast or something like that. And I think the name got dropped because of the stigma, but now with a emphasis on healthy eating and with veganism and vegetarianism really making a stand, I think a lot of these dishes are coming back just with a more modern twist to it. And you know, it seems like it would be filling. The crust is good though. The crust is just a potato short pastry. It's just mashed potatoes and flour like you saw, and it's fine. It's not bad. I would like a regular flour crust with butter and all that sort of stuff, but this is pretty good. Well, if you've reached this part of the video, I'm super excited that you have, and it makes me feel good that somebody else wants to come along on this journey with me. I'm having a lot of fun so far with the 2 recipes that I've tried, and I'm having fun trying them out on my family to see if they're any good for them too. And actually, my family really liked this. My husband did agree it needed more seasoning, but my kids ate it up like crazy. I was expecting to order pizza, but they really liked it. So yay, it's another win. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and if you'd like to see more, please drop in a comment and say hi, or let me know if there's a recipe that you used to remember that nobody makes anymore, and I'll try it out for you. Anyways, I will see you next Thursday.